Tonight, to relieve the pressure on hospitals, Ontario is expanding a program that allows paramedics to take patients to places other than the ER.
We are moving forward with expanding these 911 models of care to more municipalities.
This comes as a staffing shortage has forced the temporary closures of ERs across the province. Plus,
all of them today mentioned that they were just stocking up. They didn't actually need it.
Across the country, there's been a shortage of over-the-counter children's fever and pain medicine, the latest in the situation that has some parents stocking up. And
we're reporting is a large problem and a persistent problem.
A new study on food insecurity shows it's become a chronic problem in the province, with 16% of Ontarians struggling to afford the food they need. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Some changes are coming to Ontario's strained healthcare system. Health Minister Sylvia Jones announcing in Ottawa today plans to expand a program that will give paramedics more flexibility when it comes to where to take patients. Now, while at Queen's Park, the opposition continued to question whether more privatization is coming. Lorenda Redekop has the details.
A call for an ambulance won't necessarily mean a trip to the ER, a change confirmed by the health minister today, expanding a pilot project started in 2020.
We are moving forward with expanding these 911 models of care to more municipalities.
For example, palliative patients could receive treatment at home. People with mental health or addictions issues taken to a mental health facility. And the government is expanding treatment paramedics can provide on scene. It says hospitals and their emergency rooms are overwhelmed, struggling with a shortage of staff, especially nurses. Here's what the health minister said about what the government is doing.
These challenges require bold and innovative solutions. We can no longer stand by and support a status quo that cannot respond to the current challenges the sector is facing.
During question period, the Premier also mentioned the status quo when talking about health care, though says people won't be paying out of pocket for services.
As long as our government's here, people are going to be using the OHIP card instead of the credit card, but guess what? We can't do the same status quo. Status quo has been broken. We're going to fix it. We're going to deliver health care in a different fashion through the sectors.
It has the interim NDP leader worried about what could be coming next.
He was attacking the quote-unquote status quo. What's happened is we've had public health care that's been starved for funds, that's been treated with disrespect, that's in a crisis, and it's set things up for privatization. I think that's where he's headed.
The health minister said more is coming this week on the government's plan to stay open. She says it's aimed at stability and recovery in the health system. We expect to learn more about the government's plans tomorrow. The Minister of Health is making an announcement together with the long-term care minister and the head of Ontario Health. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Ontario is extending the deadline for childcare operators to apply for the $10 a day program. The education minister spoke today about the reason for the extension.
The extension, the red tape reduction, the streamlining, the certainty of the numbers when it comes to the fiscal impacts for next year and beyond, all of this is what they've asked for. We're delivering on it, and I really do believe we will see an increase in participation.
A letter has been sent to municipalities informing them the deadline is being extended from September 1st to November 1st. And many childcare operators, particularly for-profit ones, have said they want to sign up in order to issue rebates to parents. But they say they're hesitant about the implications to their business. They've also expressed concerns that each municipality has a different process. Now, Ontario is now telling municipalities that they have to share an example of a standard agreement with all licensed operators in their region by the end of this month. Pharmacies are dealing with a nationwide shortage of some over-the-counter pain medication for children, and that's prompting sick kids to recommend parents get a prescription for liquid Tylenol and Advil to ensure their children have access to the drugs. Natalie Collada has more.
This is normally where we would keep our Tylenol suspensions for kids. All we have left is one pack of suppositories, which would be used for infants. But other than that, even that, we can't order it anymore.
At his East End pharmacy, Marcos Massey has been running out of liquid children's Advil and Tylenol for the last month.
We had 4 people come in the pharmacy this morning, at least 4 people come in trying to get Tylenol liquid suspensions for either them or a family member. All of them today mentioned that they were just stocking up.
The rolling shortages have been ongoing for several months across the country, with demand often outstripping supply.
Beyond COVID, we've had a resurgence of RSV and flu, and so a lot of these drugs are just being used up.
I am worried that this is going to turn into the toilet paper situation of 2020. I don't want people to be going and stockpiling these products because there's lots of kids that need them.
The drug companies behind the products say they are working to address the issue. Ontario's health minister is also watching.
We are obviously monitoring very closely to make sure that there aren't shortages that are going to impact in a wider way across Ontario.
In the meantime, parents can ask doctors for a prescription to access the behind-the-counter supply if a child is sick, though one isn't mandatory. Having a prescription makes it easier for pharmacists to dispense the drugs. Parents can also opt for an alternative.
There's chewables, there's suppositories, there's crushing the larger pills, again, with the consultation of a pharmacist. So we'll be fine. There's no reason to panic.
Even with back to school weeks away.
Tylenol suspension is not a super difficult medication to manufacture. So my estimate is that it should be back on the market soon.
Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
Pearson Airport is looking at potentially opening up a cannabis store to make up for lost revenue.
I think it's a great opportunity, especially for foreigners coming in, to see that we are a country that legalized cannabis.
I think it'd be a good idea for accessibility, especially here at the airport where people may have to get, layovers, excessively long layovers and cancellations if they don't have, their prescribed need or what have you.
Pearson Airport could be a really, really unique place as an example in conveying just some of where the world is headed.
Toronto Airport Authority says it's exploring new ways to make up the $700 million it lost during the pandemic. It recently engaged with a lobbyist whose portfolio includes the cannabis and gambling industries. But don't get your expectations too high. A spokesperson for the GTAA says there is currently no plan to open a pot shop or gambling section anytime soon. Let's go to Dahlia Ashry now with a first look at your forecast. And Dahlia, well, I was in North York earlier today, and the thunder and the hail, it was pretty nuts out there.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. There was a severe thunderstorm watch that we were keeping an eye out on, and that basically ended at around 3 p.m. And then things started to cool down a little bit, but there is still a chance that we will see those damp conditions overnight. And I do have some good news, though. There will be some sunshine towards the end of the week. Now, the daytime highs in Toronto today. In Toronto, 27 degrees, Windsor 27. The cool spot in the region is Barrie at 25. Now, are we expecting rain tonight? The answer is yes, possibly 30% chance of rain. And then there is no risk of a thunderstorm tonight. That will be for tomorrow, but not in the morning. That will start kicking around 2 o'clock, and then that will carry through until the rest of the evening. Friday, mostly clear skies, and again, that will continue until 3:30 when we will see another chance of precipitation and risk of thunderstorm. What to expect tonight? Temperatures will drop to 18 degrees tomorrow, 28, and with that humidity sticking around, it'll feel like 32, and the rain is also sticking around. Kelda?
Thanks so much, Dahlia.
Thank you.
A new report from the University of Toronto finds food insecurity is becoming a persistent problem in most provinces, including Ontario. Advocates are warning this will put further strain on our already overburdened healthcare system unless the government does more to help struggling families. Dale Manukduk has more.
The rates of food insecurity were high before the pandemic, and the latest data show it has remained high from 2019 through 2021.
Almost 1 in 6 households across Canada were food insecure during that time, says a report led by U of T's Valerie Tarasuk.
What we're reporting on is food insecurity, and the way that it's been measured on this very large Statistics Canada survey is as people's experiences of inadequate or insecure access to food because of financial constraints.
In our province, more than 2 million residents struggle with food insecurity, with almost 21% of Ontario children living in a food insecure household.
Food insecurity is not a situation that a child should be raised in. And no amount of funding for school food programs or food assistance programs is ever going to compensate for a mother being able to go shopping for groceries.
The source of the issue is income. Tara Suk works across the street from the Ontario legislature, where she believes solutions are waiting. This year, the provincial government is expected to raise minimum wage to $15.50 per hour and increase the Ontario Disability Support Program by 5%.
The 5% increase that the Ford government has committed to and indexing to inflation going forward is somewhat remarkable.
While remarkable, this poverty advocate says it's far from enough.
If Ontario Works rates were doubled from $733 a month, it would still leave folks far below the poverty line. But that's the scale of increase that is needed.
In Toronto, access to food banks has exploded over the pandemic from 60,000 visits per month to 170,000. It's expected to peak in March 2023.
And regrettably, our forecast is that we will be at 225,000 client visits per month in the city of Toronto alone.
The U of T report finds that the prevalence and severity of food insecurity will get even worse if the incomes of low-income households don't keep up with the rising cost of living. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Statistics Canada has released new census data focusing on language use in this country. The agency finds certain Asian languages are growing, while Indigenous languages are seeing a resurgence. David Thurton has more.
Canada's two official languages are supposed to be on equal footing. But according to Stats Canada, one is in decline.
We see for French a decrease in the proportion of the people who speak, who has French as their first official language spoken.
This graph shows that over the last 2 decades, the number of people who predominantly speak French at home has increased. But Canada's total population has been steadily rising. And when you account for that, the number of French speakers as a proportion of the population has declined from 23% in 1991 to around 19% in 2021. Among Francophones, there's mixed reaction.
No, and don't worry. In 50 years, we will have to create some measures to keep our French.
This researcher isn't panicking.
The decline is not as steep when you take into consideration those people declaring more than one language.
But the federal government says it's taking action.
That's why we're moving forward with an ambitious legislation and also an ambitious action plan for the next 5 years.
Meanwhile, maybe in part to immersion programs like this, Indigenous languages are seeing a resurgence. Stats Canada says.
My hopes for these children are that they go and they practice with each other, with their peers, that they're brave and they're proud of their language.
This restaurant feeds the South Asian diaspora, serving them in their native languages, which according to Stats Canada, are seeing significant growth.
Before coming over here, I don't know that people will be speaking my language or not.
So we usually prefer English, like we are okay with English, but most of our regular customers are using Gujarati and Hindi.
Stats Canada says what's fueling this linguistic diversity is, of course, immigration. And that's at a cost to French, it says, because most newcomers opt to speak English when they settle here. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Welcome back. A coalition of street safety groups is petitioning Ontario's chief coroner. They say there's growing evidence that large SUVs and pickup trucks are more deadly to pedestrians and cyclists than regular cars, and they want the coroner's office to take a closer look at the issue. Tyler Cheese reports.
There are more SUVs and pickup trucks on the road than there were 10 years ago. Statistics Canada says sales of larger vehicles more than doubled since 2010. Now, street safety advocates are speaking out about the damage they can do.
I was hit on my bike in 2015 by a woman driving a large SUV, nearly 5,000 pounds. She claimed that she didn't see me.
Jessica Speakers suffered a broken spine, a brain injury, and extensive soft tissue damage.
I live with chronic pain. I live with debilitating depression and anxiety. I'm never going to be the same person that I was before this happened.
16 Ontario advocacy groups have come together to ask the chief coroner to look into street deaths caused by these kinds of vehicles.
So really what we're asking the coroner to do is not only to save lives, but to spare families the anguish that comes with losing a loved one.
The groups say recent research out of the U.S. shows these vehicles are especially deadly due to flaws built into their design.
The fact that they are higher means that drivers have blind spots that prevent them from seeing pedestrians or cyclists. And also their front ends are very high and they hit people on the thorax, so on their vital organs.
This is demonstrated in a CBC original series on GEM called Stories About Here, where documentary filmmaker Yute Lee explores the subject.
A sedan is more likely to clip a pedestrian's legs and send them flying on top of its hood, which is designed to be bouncy like a metal trampoline. Still very painful, but not as fatal.
In a letter to the chief coroner, the advocacy groups outlined data from Toronto Police. They say the numbers are consistent with the U.S. research, and the chief coroner has addressed similar issues before. In 2012, the office released a review of pedestrian deaths with 26 recommendations to make Ontario roads safer.
It's like the safety of people outside of cars has been completely forgotten by our safety regulators, and that needs to change.
For cyclists and pedestrians like Jessica, that change can't happen soon enough. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
You are looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline. Looks like the clouds have rolled through. Mostly clear right now, though some fog patches will be developing overnight. Currently, it is 22 degrees in the city. Let's go back to Dahlia now with a look at your long-range forecast. And Dahlia, we need to keep our umbrellas handy for tomorrow.
That's right. I mean, you probably didn't need it towards the afternoon, but you just keep it next to the door tonight because there's about 30% chance of rain. But have no fear, the sunshine is near towards the end of the week. The daytime highs in Toronto today, 27 degrees, Barrie 25, a little bit cooler in Barrie, and then London 26 degrees. Now, something unusual was happening earlier today. We had a severe thunderstorm, and that was making its way from the GTA and down to southwestern Ontario, which is pretty unusual. It usually doesn't happen, but it was that low pressure from the lake. Now, Thursday, going into tomorrow morning on your way to work, you know, it's clear skies mostly, and then it will start to pick up. We see again that precipitation activity and that risk of a thunderstorm once again around mid-afternoon, and that will stay till late afternoon, 6 o'clock on Thursday. As we head into Friday morning, clear skies, and then again, there is a chance that we'll see scattered showers at around 3 o'clock, and then that will slowly clear up towards the evening. And as you head into the weekend, we start to see those clear skies again. Now, tonight, temperatures will cool down. Will be 18 degrees, partially cloudy in Toronto and in Oshawa as well, 16 degrees. Mississauga and Hamilton, more so on the cooler side as well, 16 degrees. But there is a risk of a thunderstorm in Hamilton and more so scattered showers. And then tomorrow, that humidex will be kicking in. We saw that humidity today, and that will be around for tomorrow as well. It'll be 28 degrees, but it'll feel like 32. Mostly muggy conditions, especially with that rain that will be kicking and sticking around. Friday and Saturday, we get a bit of a break, like I said, from the rain. Scattered showers maybe on Friday. Sunday and Monday, we get those damp conditions again, and 70% chance of rain on Monday and a risk of a thunderstorm. But that's still along the way, so let's just focus on the weekend and what to expect coming up in the next few days. Some rain tomorrow, some dry conditions, so you have your umbrella for Thursday, and then you can put it away for Friday or maybe keep it around, and then Saturday, pop on those sunglasses. Kelda?
Glad to see the sun's going to be out on Saturday. Thanks so much, Dahlia. The city's integrity commissioner has suspended his investigation into whether Mayor John Tory broke municipal conflict of interest rules when he voted to scale back the active TO program in June. Now, Integrity Commissioner Jonathan Batty said today he didn't have enough time to complete his probe before an upcoming deadline on Friday. The investigation stems from a complaint about Tory's vote in favor of rolling back the active TO program. Blue Jays CEO Mark Shapiro requested a stop to the program's traffic closures on Lakeshore Boulevard, saying they made it more difficult for fans to get to the games. Now, Rogers owns the Blue Jays, and Tory has a paid role as an advisor to the Rogers Control Trust. The complainant, Adam Chalif, says he will ask the commissioner to resume the inquiry after the municipal election this fall. And the city has released its roster of recreational programs for the fall. From music to sports to the arts, there's something for everyone. There is also virtual classes being offered, including board games, yoga, and family Zumba. You can head to the city's website to find out more. The programs begin on October. Finally tonight, after a 2-year hiatus, the CNE makes its return this weekend. The gates open this Friday, but today they invited members of the media for a sneak peek. And of course, you've got the rides and the games, but for many, come on, it's all about the food. Our Greg Ross got a preview of some of the unique concoctions we can expect this year.
So this is our dill pickle split. So that's pickle ice cream, and then there's like pickles and then chips layered around as well.
What does pickle ice cream taste like?
It is extremely accurate to pickles.
This is the pickle ice cream right here. Oh.
Tastes like pickle?
It tastes like dill pickle chips. A croissant with a waffle, a croffle.
And then we bake it with a waffle machine.
This is the tiramisu flavor.
Yeah. Yummy!
How was that? Yeah, great. So what do we got? What do we got here?
This is a state fair hot dog. This is what you want to eat at the CNE this year. Starts off with the bun, normal. You got the actual hot dog, normal. But then you have cheese sauce that goes on top. And after the cheese sauce, you put the caramel kettles on, the caramel corn. It's a sweet and savory all together.
All right, so folks want to try it. Where do they go?
What are we looking at here?
We're looking at ketchup-infused and mustard-infused ice cream. We have a pretzel, actually dipped in mustard, that's a garnish, as well as a French fry with ketchup as well. It's not like we're just throwing ketchup on top, throwing mustard on top. It's actually infused into the ice cream itself, into the base.
Ketchup flavor.
Ketchup flavored.
Mustard flavor.
Mustard flavored.
In ice cream.
Delicious.
Let's give this a try. It's actually not that bad. All right, mustard now.
All right.
That one's okay. That was like eating frozen mustard.
I love that one.
Okay.
That was our Greg Ross giving us a taste of what we can expect at the CNE this year. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'll have your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. Have a great night.